Has this ever happened to you? What about this? It sure has happened to me, but what if I told you I won both of these sets and I have 5 tips to share with you today to absolutely destroy DI spammers. Yo, it's your boy nugieboy. In this video, I'll share with you my tips to beating DI in ranked. Or maybe you're a DI enjoyer, but your opponents keep punishing you for it, and you want to know why it's not working for you. I can also help you there. Before that, I'll cover what drive impact is and how it works. If you already know how it works, just skip ahead to the timestamps in the description. Disclaimer, this is not a replacement for basic fundamentals in fighting games, such as footsies, whiff punishing, etc, etc. This is just a guide on playing around one of Street Fighter 6's premier system mechanics. Let's talk about why you see drive impact or DI so often. It looks cool as shit with the pain effects and the slowdown. The big punish counter is very flashy. It's obviously very strong and really easy to do, so why wouldn't you want to do it? Well, DI is something very early on that will get a lot of free wins for players if their opponent doesn't know how to deal with them. However, it's high risk and high reward, so playing around these risks will be important for winning against players who abuse this tool. So let's talk about what it is. If you search for this video, you probably already know what it looks like. It's this big forward advancing paint move. You do it by pressing heavy punch and heavy kick at the same time. However, it's very important that you use the macro, and we'll get into why in the tip section later on in the video. So drive impact, you can basically do it anywhere on the screen. More importantly, you could do it off special cancelable normals. So Luke, for example, light punch, Jury's heavy punch, Chun-Li's medium punch. Basically any move that you could do a special cancel off of, you could do a DI off of. It also costs 1 bar of drive meter, which is the little green bar below the HP. So it's actually relatively cheap to use. It's also an armored move that tanks 2 hits. So if you don't get a 3rd hit in like Luke here, you're getting blown up. And it starts up in 26 frames. It's relatively reactable, but it is less than half a second, so you have to be ready for it. So let's talk about why it's strong. First off, it's like a get off me tool. So even though Luke blocked it, I'm far away from Jamie now. It also can go through projectile. But I would be careful of this, and we'll talk about why in a second. And then if you land it, you get a punish counter, which gets you a full combo. It's also good for players who struggle with combos or motion inputs, because they have all day to input their super, basically. Drive impact is especially strong in the corner, because you can't even block it anymore. If the opponent blocks it, you get a wall splat and a full combo. And even worse, when a character is in burnout, on top of not being able to DI back on reaction, if you DI them against the wall, they get stunned and you basically get a free training room combo. So those are the strengths. It's about time we start covering what it's weak to. So first off, it's weak to itself. So if you can react to it, you get the punish counter. There's actually a preset on the simple training settings page that will allow you to practice against this. It's called drive impact. It's called Drive Impact Defense Practice. It's quite the mouthful. The simple training settings is a really powerful tool if you don't really know how to use the training menu quite yet. What this will do is set Ryu to jump over and over again, and then he'll randomly throw out a drive impact. I recommend reacting to the paint splash, and there's also an audio cue too. The more you get that ingrained into your memory, the faster you'll be able to react in time. The issue is it only automatically sets up Ryu, and every character has their own paint color. So if you want to use a visual cue, you'll have to practice over time or set this up yourself. But this is a great way to, just get started. And to make matters worse, some characters have a green drive impact, which looks very similar at a glance to the drive rush color. So keep that in mind when you're looking out for DI against these characters. Because if you're DIing on reaction to a drive rush, thinking it's a drive impact, and they don't press a button or they're drive rushing into a special cancelable normal, they're going to be able to DI back and you're going to get punished. It's a little cheap. If you know it's coming, you can also just jump it, get your punish of choice. It's also punishable on whiff, so if it doesn't even hit you, just hit them with whatever you want. You can throw them out of it. This one's useful for people who DI on wake up. It's doubly useful because it covers both parry and DI. And yes, this also works with command grabs. It has 2 hits of armor, so on the 3rd hit, it will armor break them. Jamie's heavy punch here, it has 3 hits, so it's really good for breaking this. And if you have special moves that hit more than once, that's pretty useful as well. Also, supers will just blow right through it. So remember that I said that DI goes through projectiles. which is kind of good if you have a Reed and Luke or any other characters just kind of spamming projectiles in your face. I said you have to be careful because Luke can do something like this. He can shoot heavy sandblasts and then punch into you with light punch, which is a special cancel normal, and then he'll DI. So I would either just be on the lookout for that kind of thing or experiment with the other characters. If they're being a little too predictable with it, then yeah, it's a good time to use it. The important thing to note is even though DI has armor, they still take damage, and you can kill them while doing this. This person actually had low health, and they DI'd back on reaction to my DI, and they died, which was pretty funny. And I already know what you're about to say, but Nugi, when do I use it? Don't worry, my dear viewer, we're about to get right into that, but we gotta lay down some groundwork. Before we do any of this, I can't emphasize this enough, you need to set the DI macro and use it. I know you can press 2 buttons and people prefer throw and parry because they're used to it from older games, but in this game, throw is not something you're actually gonna be able to react to, it's kind of a read that you do. Trust me when I say this, you're just gonna be hella tight if you react DI with 2 buttons but you miss an input. To do this, go to your controller settings and set heavy punch and heavy kick to your preferred button of choice. I have it right under my index finger. Yeah, my layout's a little bit cursed, but it works for me, but use whatever works for you. Just use it. Okay, so first tip is press it anywhere on reaction. Let's say you're hitting an unsafe normal on block that is not DI cancelable, and your opponent opts to DI rather than a faster punish that actually works. You might recover in time. Remember, DI starts in 26 frames. So for example, Manon's medium punch, medium kick target combo on block is punishable by lights. But if your opponent doesn't know the punish, they might panic DI. You recover in time and can react. So anytime you see a DI, I would try to push it anyway. If it doesn't work, you know, nothing comes out. You're gonna get punished for your move anyway, so you might as well try. So this kind of comes up when you're staggering them with lights and they're just kind of like, oh my god, I don't know what to do, just get off of me, and they press DI, right? So Manon's crouching light kick is not special cancelable. However, in some instances, since it's so fast, you'll be able to DI back, right? The way that you know this works is if you set the dummy to DI on block and you make them block something, if you have time to block, you have time to DI. Bang. The only thing I would keep in mind is if you don't want to go in burnout, right? If you have less than 1 bar and you DI, you're gonna spend the rest of it. So yeah, always kind of keep your drive gauge in mind. If you're gonna win, you know, just go for it. If you're at a large deficit and you kind of need to mount a comeback, maybe going into burnout is probably not your best bet. So opt for something else. Also keep your health in mind because remember, you don't prevent damage. These are kind of niche scenarios, but I can't stress enough keeping your resources in mind throughout the match. That being said, I still think it's good to try to press it because it trains your brain to react to the audio and visual cue of the drive impact. When you see a DI, you need to press your macro without even thinking about it. It has to be as second nature as breathing. And that brings us to our next tip. That would be dealing with YOLO spammers in neutral. All you have to do against these kind of players is just play patiently. If you just play patiently, soon they'll crack. They'll be like, oh my god, I'm done playing neutral. I just want to send it. If you can identify this, you'll be able to react. These players are kind of the hardest to deal with. You have to be patient and your reactions kind of have to be on point. Let's say they just send it and you weren't ready. If you're playing patiently and not really pressing anything, you just blocked it. In the grand scheme of things, you're doing a little bit better. They spent a bar of drive gauge, nothing really happened. With some more experience and practice, you'll be able to identify these kind of players and really capitalize on players who like to kind of just send it. The way I like to think about it is they kind of feel like they're in a high pressure situation and you just have to smell that fear, you know? And for the next tip, I like to call this one unsafe move insurance. Say your opponent whiffs a throw or they do an unsafe move on block and then they press a DI right after. Players who do this are basically relying on the fact that their opponent might not know the correct punish, or they might know it but they are not reacting fast enough, so they can just DI right through their punish. Ideally, you want your punishes to be on point, and if you don't know the punish and you realize the player is doing this, you could just wait for their DI or try to just punish with a DI cancelable normal, and if they DI that normal, then just react with your own DI. But yeah, ideally you want to know your punishes. Okay, next we need to talk about the corner. The corner is a very scary situation in Street Fighter 6. Let's start with the opponent in the corner. The easiest way to get out of the corner is to DI right out, right? Special cancel with normals are great in this situation. So if you just keep poking them and staggering your pokes, if they don't know how to poke back, they're just going to try to DI out, which will work against a lot of people. But if you're using your special cancelable pokes, then you're going to be able to DI right back at them. Now let's talk about with you in the corner. Using a DI on an opponent in the corner is very enticing because they can get a wall splat if it lands. And if you're holding down back and they're too afraid to go for a throw, it might be time to look for a DI, right? However, if you're in burnout, they're definitely going to be looking for a DI since you can't react with your own. And if it lands, they get a stun combo. And basically your only options here are to use a super or jump out, or if you're hella cracked, try to throw them out of the DI. Just to reiterate, the reward is very high for landing a DI in the corner. So it's definitely a good spot to be looking out for one. For the next tip, I have players who DI on wake up. They basically are using it as a budget invincible reversal. This works on players who don't structure their offense around DI. That being said, there's a variety of ways to deal with this. Remember, DIs are throwable, so if somebody's DIing on wake up, you can just throw them. However, if you want like a juicier punish, you can kind of just wait and see if they do the DI. I don't really like this though, because even though you get the punish, sometimes they won't press it and you basically kind of give up your turn there. Only do this if you have like a hard read. It's also based on the knowledge that you know already. It's not the most consistent strategy when playing player to player. So a more consistent strategy that will cover more options and allow you to keep your offense is to meaty. If you don't know what a meaty is, it's basically timing your hit after a knockdown so that if they do anything other than block or an invincible move, they're gonna get hit. So from a known here, my go-to strike option is this crouching light kick, standing light punch combo into a special move. If it hits because they were trying to mash or jump out, then, I just continue my combo and get my special move. And if they block, I just give up my turn or maybe try to steal it back. However, if they're DIing on wake up, I can DI cancel my standing light punch to react to their DI. This way I don't have to give up my offense and still play around DI. So I encourage you to experiment with your character by setting the dummy to DI on wake up and figure out what you can meaty with that will cover this option. You really can't let them get away with this. Alright, I know I said that I'll only have 5 tips, but I have a bonus one. This one's a little bit more advanced. So as you become a little bit more familiar with the game, players will have pre-planned setups that they'll do with their character that allow them to apply really strong mix, and some can automatically hedge against DI. I just want to showcase some examples that are really cool. Yes, DI is a very powerful option, but there is a lot of counterplay, and I just think it's a really interesting mechanic to play around. Juri has this really common knockdown where she'll do parry drive rush into forward medium kick, which is an overhead. Not only is she right in your face again, but now you have to block this high. If you try to DI out of this, the forward medium kick will recover in time so that Juri can DI, which is really nice. So Luke here, he has this really annoying target combo here, light, medium, heavy. If he does a special, you can blow it up with DI, right? However, if you're Luke and you kind of catch on that they're DIing through your special, then what you can do is use the OD version, and this just blows up DI. It eats through the 2 hits of armor, whatever button you want, and it'll just stop it, and he just recovers fast enough that he can just DI back. Luke also has heavy punch into sandblast. No matter what, he can't mash the sandblast, and even worse, he recovers in time. So yeah, I'm starting to see a pattern with Luke here. Seems to be very good against DI. So I encourage you to experiment with your own character or watch high level play, and if they do something a lot, maybe try to understand why they do it and try to implement it into your game plan. Also, make sure you test it out yourself, understand why they do it, what it's trying to be, what it's weak to, and basically just get a general understanding of how it works. Alright, so I have some closing thoughts. I am by no means suggesting don't use DI, as it is a very strong tool. You will certainly see YOLO DIs at higher levels of play, as the mental stack of the ground game is really large.
I'm a scrub. I'm a scrub. I really should not do that.
It's a good idea to use it to kind of test your opponent, and the less you use it, the stronger it is. The less on their mind it will be, and you'll be able to get away with your own. So experiment with using it and not using it when you're in tough situations. Just know the inherent risk that you carry when you do one. And remember, just don't be too predictable. Defaulting to DI when you're in a bad situation is a good way to get punished. Again, learning these techniques and situations is not your ticket to becoming a strong player, but just another means to an end. So learning to play around the system mechanics is just one small part of what you'll need to be successful in this game. So yeah, those are maybe more than 5 tips that I've been using while playing Street Fighter 6 so far. This is by no means an exhaustive list, as fighting games can be very variable and have some really crazy situations. That being said, you're able to find very common situations as well, which was how I was able to put together this video. This was my first time making a guide like this. I tried to cover the topic as best as I could from my experience. So let me know if you have any critiques or anything I missed. I can maybe make an updated version with some more tips. If you found the video helpful, leave a like. It helps a ton. It's my goal to get good at SF6 and provide content so that we can all get better. That way I'm incentivized to, stay on top of my game. So if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. I've been nugieboy. Thank you for watching my video. Have a good one. And with that, I'm out.